Welcome. I'm Doug Smith with Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative, and today's topic is going to be uh, looking at some Tier 2 intervention, and the specific Tier 2 intervention we'll be talking about will be behavior contracts. So some of the talking points or some of the things that we'll be talking about briefly today, or we're going to be looking at a review of the tiers of intervention, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. We'll briefly discuss what a behavior contract is, different types of behavior contracts, and steps to implement a behavior contract in your classroom. So when we're looking at our tiers of intervention, we have to remember that Tier 1 interventions or Tier 1 are those universal strategies that all students get when they come into our building. Those are such things as looking at Tier 1 looks at school-wide expectations that are taught, modeled, practiced, and reinforced in the environment. You also look at the physical environment of your classroom. You look at active supervision, behavior-specific praise, student engagement and opportunities to respond, and a continuum of responses, just to name a few of those things. So one of the things, like I said, with universal uh, interventions or universal strategies in place, they support roughly 75 to 90% of the kids in your school. Those are the kiddos that will go along fine, no problems, no behavior difficulties at all with just the bare minimum of what we do every day in the classroom. Tier 2, on the screen, it calls it selected. I've heard it mentioned as targeted. So these are at-risk students who need some extra support besides just Tier 1 strategies or those universal core curriculum or core behavior uh, practices that you have in your schools. Tier 2, small group, of course, and it's like maybe 10% of the kiddos in your school, 10 to it says 10 to 25%, but it'd probably be 10 to, yeah, that'd probably be roughly right because that's the number of students that aren't responding to just universal interventions that are in place or just universal strategies that we're using. These include some things that small group tier 2 strategies could be check in and check out, social skills training, restorative practices, and like I said, the one that we're going to be talking about today are behavior contracts. Now, when we get into tier three are those things that are individualized, intensive. They're such things as a completing an FBA, developing a behavior intervention plan. FBA is a functional behavior assessment. Develop a behavior intervention plan from the data that you've collected to complete a functional behavior assessment, and then implement that plan and look at revising and renewing as much as it need to or as often as needed. And then it could also take into account, you look at trauma-informed care or trauma-informed practices for educators, look at other wraparound services that we can have from outside agencies that are within our schools or within our communities. These could be mental health providers, counselors, therapists, so forth and so on. So those tier 3 are like I said, they're intensive, they're individualized. It's usually a very small percentage of the population of your schools, 3 to 5%, maybe. So those are the kids that everybody knows who they are. They're on everyone's radar. So everybody is involved in trying to ensure that those students have a successful school experience. So what is a behavior contract? As it says, a behavior contract is a formalized written agreement between one or more parties. It could be between a student and a peer. It could be between a student and a teacher, student and a parent, or a student and a teacher and a parent. Any combination of two or more or one or more parties. So then the purpose is to address a specific behavior with goals and reinforcement included in the contract. So a behavior contract or contingency contract is a mutually agreed upon document between at least two individuals in which one or both individuals agree to demonstrate certain behaviors. They're they relate, look at a specific contingent relationship between the behavior and access, or to gain or to avoid something. So there is it's an agreement that the student is going to work on a behavior that needs to be improved, and you're going to either provide them with positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. So you're either going to provide them access to something, or you're going to remove something from them that is reinforcing to them. A negative reinforcer could be the removal of homework. Student turns in their assignment during the day, then they don't have homework that evening. So that is a negative reinforcer, not having to complete that homework. Positive reinforcers are the things that they get, or things that they have access to as a result of completing their homework, or whatever the behavior it is that you're wanting to address. So there are three core components of a behavior contract. And those three core components are the behavior. What is the behavior? What are we looking at? What are we trying to address? What do we need to decrease or increase? So what is that behavior? Then we've got to look at a reward. What is reinforcing to that student? What are they willing to work for? And is it rewarding to them or reinforcing to them to change their behavior so that they can be more successful in a school setting? Now, one thing with a reward or reinforcer that you have to remember is it is what the student finds rewarding or what the student finds reinforcing. It's not what we think they may like. It is actually what they like. So it might be a good idea to have a list or a menu of rewards and reinforcers that the student can choose from when you're working on a writing up or implementing a behavior contract. So just be aware of what is it that the student is willing to work for and what they really want, not just, oh yeah, if I have a good day, I'd like to have a candy bar or a Pepsi or a pop or something like that. So, you know, yeah, I might work for that, but is that going to be rewarding every day? Is that going to be reinforcing every day? I've heard someone say, if you give me $50 to run a mile, I'm not even going to waste my time doing it probably. But if you said it's 500 or 5,000, I'll drag myself across the finish line to finish that mile. That's more rewarding than just the $50. Yeah, it sounds good, but that 500 or that 5,000 sounds even better. So I'm more inclined to work toward that. And then you also need a recording sheet or daily progress report. We call them school cards in a setting I was in before. Then you look at just what are some ways that we can record the progress that the student is making using this uh, intervention or strategy, or if they're not making progress, then what do we need to do to change? So if you have a recording sheet, then you have your data collection document there, and then you can use that as progress monitoring to ensure that the students are uh, making adequate progress toward meeting their goals. So if in the behavior contract, if we're looking at the behavior has four pieces of information. Who are the people that's entering into the contract? Is it the student and the teacher? Is it the student, the teacher, and the parent? Or is it a student and a peer? Who are the people involved in this contract? Who is going to be responsible for the behavior, and who's going to be responsible for providing that person with the reward or reinforcement if they achieve that goal? What is the behavior? What is the behavior that or behaviors that the student needs to perform to be successful in a school setting? Or what is the behavior that you want to see increased? Or what is the behavior that you want to, or the undesired behavior that you want to see decreased? So just think about the behavior and what that behavior is and what does that look like. So when you're looking at the behavior, you got to make sure that you define that behavior in a way that's measurable, observable, and objective. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but it's just make sure you define the behavior in a way that it's no question that is what the behavior is. That's what you're looking for. When when is the behavior going to occur? I may have difficulty during math class, and so I may be up out of my seat, calling out, disrupting class. So the behavior that you want to decrease, of course, is the disrupting class or calling out in class. So I do not do that in social studies. I don't do that in English language arts, or I don't do that in any other class except math. So the behavior contract will be written for that math class, and during that math class, I will be performing this behavior during math class to a accuracy or proficiency of whatever is acceptable to the persons writing the contract. So, what level of performance of the behavior do we need to see before that student is considered to be successful, or what is the success criteria for meeting the uh, objective of the goal that we're setting by using this behavior contract? So the reward also includes four pieces of information. Who will give the reward? That's the contingency manager. If I show up to work on time, then I have a colleague that gives me uh, I will say a sticker. And at the end of the week, if I've earned 5 stickers from that colleague for showing up to work on time, then I'm rewarded. I may get a extra 10-minute break during the day. I may get I don't know, a coffee. I may get able to sit outside with a friend, and for a break or whatever that reward is that for that person. And then when will that be given? Will that be given with some of our kiddos? You have to reward them more often than others. So when will we reward or reinforce this behavior? Will it be after every hour, after 30 minutes? Some of our kiddos, they need to be rewarded or acknowledged every 15 minutes or so, and some even earlier than that. Or can a kiddo understand that this is something that I'll be rewarded for this behavior when the end of the school day or the end of the school week? Sometimes with their kids, it's difficult to see past today, so they don't understand that delayed gratification. I have to wait a week. Well, the whole, I mean, that's a long time for a student to understand, especially our younger ones. So just be ready to be able to adjust when you provide that reward and how often and how much, what is the appropriate amount of that reward for that student. So, for instance, I've seen folks take a Starburst fruit chew or a chewy candy, and they cut it into pieces. And then after a student performs a task, they reward them with a bit of that candy. Well, I mean, if you give them a whole pack of those chews or whatever, then they're going to perform that behavior one time, and then they're going to be rewarded by too much, in my thoughts, because we want to, you know, have them to increase those behaviors to meet that reward. And that reward has to be something that they're willing to work toward again. And then, so if we overload them with too much of it, then it's not going to be reinforcing or rewarding to them any longer. So, how much will the reward be? So, who'll give the reward? What will it be? When? And how much of the reward? Then also, when we're looking at a behavior contract, we talked about the three things. The next one is the recording sheet. This is a document designed to serve as a prompt for all parties to review the contract, but it also provides you with that opportunity to monitor their progress or take that data and then collect that data and then be able to make decisions based on the data that you've collected and shared with all the stakeholders involved. So there's three types of behavior contracts. One party contract, which could be called a unilateral or a self contract, a two-party contract, which could be either a quid pro quo or a parallel contract, and a three-party contract. In a one-party contract, a person wants to change their own behavior. The student arranges for someone to serve as a contingency manager, and this person makes sure the behavior contract is implemented as planned. Now, with a one-party contract, for instance, I want to be able to uh, not have homework, so on the weekend, so I turn my homework in. I want to get better at turning homework in. So during the week, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, I turn my homework in, and then I get a sticker. And at the end of the day, if I've got, or at the end of the week, if I've got 5 stickers or 8 stickers or whatever you said, then I get rewarded. I've changed my behavior, but my reward was based on how well I met the criteria and someone else providing that reward to them. One thing you want to make sure is that the person that is the contingency manager or the person that's providing the reward or the reinforcer, it's not going to be something that benefits them. That's not going to be something that's going to be awkward when that student doesn't get that reward or earn that incentive, just so that, that they're looking out for the best interests of the student. And there's two types of two-party or bilateral contracts, and those are quid pro quo and parallel. And when we're looking at a quid pro quo contract, looking at one person's behavior change serves as the reinforcer for the other person's behavior change. And an example is I have a rough time getting my kiddos clean his room, right? So I'm on to him almost every day. Clean your room, pick up your clothes, put your laundry away, whatever it is, Every day I'm nagging him and nagging him and nagging him. Well, we write a two-party contract or a bilateral contract, and it says in a quid pro quo. And the this type of contract is where if he says, I'll clean my room, all right, that's the behavior I want to see. That's the reinforcer I want to see if I don't nag him or aggravate him about it. So him cleaning his room is reinforcing to me because that's what I want to see, and me not nagging or aggravating or harping on it is reinforcing to him because he don't want to hear my mouth. So he cleans his room. I'm reinforced. I don't gripe at him or complain. He's reinforced. So it is our behaviors change serves as a reinforcer for the other person's behavior change. Now, in a parallel contract, can be used when each person's willing to change a behavior that's important to the other person, but the rewards aren't contingent upon the other person's behavior. So if I so if, back to the same scenario, so parallel contract, if he cleans his room, then on the weekend, we'll go out for a drive or we'll go out to a movie or whatever's going to reward him. And so that and if I hold it to my part and I don't nag at him to clean his room and he does it, then on the weekend, I'll pick an activity that I want to do. But our behaviors aren't reinforcing to each other. They're parallel. They run side by side, but his reinforcement and my reinforcement aren't contingent upon the other person's behavior. So those are parallel contracts. So a three-party contract can be written between students, teachers, and parents to support behaviors that facilitate school success. So an example of these that a lot of times that we use and haven't really thought about is a use of a homeschool note or school home note where it's or a check in and check out where that progress report or daily point card goes home at the end of the day. The parents look over it, they sign it, they provide a little reward for the student for earning their goals or meeting their benchmarks or meeting the goal for that day. And then so they're rewarded. The student's behavior is changing. The student is rewarded by the teacher at school. And then as a result of them having a good day, the teacher then sends home their progress report, and then their parents are rewarding them at home. If they've had a difficult day at school, they didn't meet their goal, then you still provide them with some talk. You discuss the point card, you discuss what happened, what went wrong, and then you look at, okay, we didn't make it today. I'm going to encourage you to do better tomorrow. And I know you can earn this tomorrow, no doubt about it. So that parent is still providing a little bit of a reward, but it's more of a encouragement instead of something tangible or something that they can hold or access to or whatever. So three-party contracts, like I said, is usually the student, the teacher, and the parent all work together in order to change the behavior or to address the behavior of concern, and then make it across all settings where that behavior can be addressed and rewarded as needed. So we're going to look at some scenarios here. We have a scenario, and I'd like for you to you can either unmute or drop it in the chat. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to read a scenario and then we'll see what you think about it. And so is this a one-party contract, a two-party contract? And if it is two-party, is it quid pro quo or is it parallel? And is it a three-party contract? So Albert will be in the truck with his backpack and lunch bag by 7:45 Monday through Friday. When completed for the whole week, he'll choose an outdoor activity for 1 hour on Saturday. His mother, Lisa, will refrain from reminding Albert to be in the truck on time. When accomplished for all 5 school days, she will choose an indoor activity for 1 hour on Saturday for herself. Okay, so what type of contract would this be?
Quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo? What makes you think it's a quid pro quo?
Correction, parallel. I was just thinking two party, but it's parallel. They both have rewards.
Right. Okay, thank you. Yes, they both are part of the contract. Both of their behaviors are going to be rewarded, but their behaviors don't depend upon the other as the reinforcer for their to increase or improve that behavior. Great. Parallel. Thank you very much. So let's try this one. Stephanie agrees to complete her daily homework assignments each week. She will turn in the completed assignments on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday mornings in the homework basket when she walks in the classroom and before beginning her bell work. If she meets her goal, Mr. Johnson will give her a best buck on Friday for being responsible and finishing her homework. So which type of contract? Is it one party, two party, or three party?
One party.
Right. Thank you. One party. Yes. Her behavior is contingent, or her reward is contingent upon her behavior, and that behavior is turning in her homework. And then her teacher provides her with I guess a best buck or as a type of school-wide reward system for that class. All right. So in this scenario, Albert will be in the truck with his backpack and lunch bag by 7:45 Monday through Friday. In exchange, his mom, Lisa, agrees to refrain from reminding Albert to be in the truck on time. So what do we have here? Is it one party, two party, three party? And if it's two party, is it quid pro quo or parallel? So we have two parties, correct? And those two parties are Albert and his mother. And so
we've got a response that in the chat that says quid pro quo.
Yes, it is quid pro quo because their behaviors are reinforcing to each other, are contingent upon each other to be reinforcing. He's in his back, he's got his stuff ready and he's already in the truck ready to go, and his mom don't have to fuss at him or remind him. And then so him being in the truck ready to go is reinforcing to her, and her not reminding him or grapping at him early in the morning is reinforcing to him. So it is quid pro quo. And then last, is this a one party, two party, or three party? Says Lester would contribute to class-wide or small group instruction 2 times during English language arts and attempt all activities. He will receive 2 Mustang bucks each day, 1 for participating in a discussion and 1 for attempting all assignments. If he shares his progress with his parents 4 out of 5 days, he will receive another Mustang buck. Lester's father will praise Lester for meeting goal or encourage him to do better each day. So
three party.
Yes, thank you. Awesome job. It is a three-party goal because, of course, it has the student, it has the teacher, and it has the parents. The parents are also going to either praise or encourage him the next day. So, yes, it is a three-party contract. Thank you. So now let's briefly look at the steps to implement a behavior contract. And then this there's one final step up here, step 9, but I just left it as something that we'll bring up here at the finish. So when we select or determine the contract or determine a target behavior, we want to look at of course it's going to be difficult. You're not going to be able to address all the behaviors of concern at one time. So what is the one behavior of concern or the one behavior that is needs to either decrease or increase? What is the challenge behavior? How do we uh, look at that challenging behavior? What is the one behavior that we can address to have a quick win and to have the most impact if we address that behavior quickly? So that's first one is that is a you determine what that behavior is. And then when you do that, you have to create an operational definition of that behavior. And that definition should be behavior should be measurable, observable, and objective. So it should be defined in a way that everyone that walks in, reads the behavior contract and walks into the classroom and sees the student. They know exactly what behavior you're talking about because of the definition that you're giving it. Then you're going to, after you determine that target behavior, then you're going to have to collect data, of course, gather some information and determine how you can determine how often the behavior occurs. That would be by using a tally chart or a frequency count. You look at latency. How long does it take before the student gets started on task, or how long does it take before you give a command or a mand and the student begins that task or whatever. So, and then you look at, or is it duration? How long does the behavior occur? How long does that behavior last? So gather that data and have it available so that you can make data or decisions based on the data that you've collected. So the second step is to schedule a meeting with all parties, with all stakeholders. If it's a two-person contract, then the meeting should be with the student and the teacher. If it's a three-person contract, please bring in the parents or any family members that are concerned about the student's success, are involved in the student's success. You sure everyone understands the need, details, and anticipated outcomes of using a behavior contract. And of course, you have to promote buy-in by incorporating input from all parties, ensure goals and comfort are ensure that they're all comfortable with the goals and with the plan. Explain intervention in details, what you're going to do, what you're going to be looking at, and encourage participation and feedback. Involve families and students to enhance the validity of the contract. Make sure basically make sure everybody has a say in what they want put into this behavior contract. What are we going to do? How are we going to help the student? Step 3 is discuss the strengths and ensure our behavior shape. Of course, we want to begin the meeting by discussing the strengths that the student has, the positive attributes or accomplishments. Some examples would be, he follows instructions, or he's a great attendance, regular attendance, excellent reading skills. Okay, so we have our strengths, and then we want to share that behavior or what do we need to address. And that one of those behaviors, the student may have difficulty, and may not be a behavior, but the student may have academic difficulties with math. So that would be an area of concern. So that would be an area that we would discuss in order to, what can we do to increase their math skills in our classroom. And then, look at our strengths first, and then we will talk about what is the behavior that we want to see and how can we, I guess, address that behavior in a positive way that's manageable by all. So step 4 is you would create a behavioral objective. And a comprehensive behavioral objective has a targeted individual who will perform a task. What goal or desired behavior? What do we want them to do? What is the conditions of the performance? What circumstances? Is it during regular class? Is it during gym time? Is it during unstructured time? Is it during uh, uh, you know, uh, getting on the bus? So, where was what circumstances that behavior is going to be occurring? How well are they going to do that? Then by when? And then uh, look at the data collection and what are the things that we've collected and how are we sharing that data with all stakeholders. Step 5 is determine a reward or reinforcer. We've already talked about that briefly. So the rewards or reinforcers are what are rewarding and reinforcing to that student. And then if we're going to do a three-person contract or a three-party contract, of course, you want to bring in your parents and get their input on the what's rewarding or reinforcing that they've seen at home. Step 6 is progress monitoring, data collection sheets, determine what data to collect, how to collect that data. Are you going to have regular, like each week, let's look over the data and determine if the intervention has been successful. What do we need to do differently? If it's been successful, do we carry on? Do we adjust it? Do we discontinue it? Sometimes we have goals for our students and they meet those goals rather quickly. So we can discontinue that behavior contract and then address another behavior. Since a behavior contract worked with this one, let's give it a shot with another behavior that's concerning and see what happens there. So look at progress monitoring and collection and data collection sheets. And then step 7 is write up the contract. Use simple language, kid-friendly language, language that free of jargon, free of those acronyms and things like that. So write up a contract that is simplified in language. You may have to use visuals with the little fellows, and then have all parties sign the contract, and which indicates agreement with the plan. Step 8, review data and ensure contracts being implemented with fidelity. Monitor progress was, sometimes do weekly review of student performance. Check and see if the behavior is increasing or the negative behavior is decreasing, and is everyone implementing the plan as designed? Is everyone involved with the plan? Everyone working toward what's going to make the student successful? And then the final thing that we want to talk about or think about is after implementing the plan for 2 to 4 weeks, you want to get input from all stakeholders to determine next steps. With any, with our strategies, when we're looking at progress monitoring, sometimes we do that. Progress monitoring will be sent home concurrent with the issuance of report cards. So when you're implementing like for instance, a new strategy or a new intervention, you may want to look after a couple of 3 weeks, 4 weeks, give it some time to work, but don't don't implement it for so long. If you clearly see that it's not working or understand that it's not working, don't continue using it. Make an adjustment or a change at that time, so that you can, so you're not fussing or wallering through 4, 5, 6, or 8 weeks of stuff that's not working. But don't, oh, we tried it for 2 days and it didn't work. Well, that's that behavior burst thing. You try to address a behavior, you try to change a behavior, you introduce a new strategy, that behavior is going to get worse before it gets better. So if you can hang on through that getting worse part, then as you can see the improvements in it and the behavior starts to improve. But give it time to work, but don't waller in it too long where you're becoming frustrated and it's just causing more, headaches than it's worth. All right, so as you can see, we have a website. It's kvecsertac.theholler.org. And on that website, there's many opportunities for professional development. And if you've never been to the website, I would recommend that you go. Uh, but there's one section that says resources, other section that says PD opportunities. Now the section that says resources, there's no certificate for those. They're great resources. They're valuable information there, but there's like 5 or 10 minute clips or something like that. So you won't get a certificate or a PD credit for doing those, but please check those out as well. And like I said, though, we have several other opportunities for professional development. And if your district approves them, then you can count those toward PD hours. So just check it out if you get an opportunity or a chance. We'd like to thank our sponsors of Slides Mania for allowing us to use these free themes and templates from Slides Mania. All right. Let's talk. Anybody got anything they want to talk about? Or if not, I guess we're free to go, right? You're muted, I think.
Thank you. For me, the quid pro quo, it was a new one that I was not aware of. When when I had to complete behavior contracts and things like that, I never really thought about it in depth as to the different types and things like that. So that was interesting.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I found interesting as well. I've heard doing behavior contracts and stuff throughout my career, and then once I got into looking into what are some behavior contracts and what they look like and things like that, yeah, there's so many different ones out there, and just wasn't aware of what they were called. I think the majority of the contracts that we use are usually the one person, the student's behavior. You're going to do this, and I, as the teacher, am going to give you this reward. Thanks a lot of the things that we see. So the 3-party contracts, like I said, is good for check in and check out. It's good for school home node. There's just different strategies you can use with the kiddos and the parents to make them feel part of the school and part of the learning that's going on. There's so many different tier 2 and tier 3 strategies, or tier 1 strategies as well. With the tier 1, a lot of things that we think about is those low prep, high yield strategies, such as behavior specific praise. You never think about telling the kids exactly what you're praising them for. I was always good for, all right, everybody did a great job. Thanks, guys. Wonderful job. Half my kids be asleep, but what am I praising those for? What is that specific behavior that I want to see? And then you have those other, opportunities to respond. What are some different ways that we have our kiddos respond? And also you have some of those like letting them make choices. How empowering is that to a student or to a kid to think that they get to make a choice in that classroom on what they're doing? Give them 2 or 3 choices, but let them choose which one. But thank you. Yeah, I think thank you for that feedback and that information. I think it's what we need to do. Look at some specific one little area and then address that. So thank you for that. Thank y'all. Be safe, be kind, be exceptional.